The Galactic Council Chamber was calm and bright, filled with slow lights and quiet voices. It was built to feel peaceful, so no one would think of war while sitting inside it. Many species gathered there, each with different shapes, colors, and ways of speaking. Humans sat at the far side of the chamber, not in the center, not in the shadows, but somewhere easy to ignore. Chi-Ho stood behind the human desk, hands folded, eyes steady. He listened more than he spoke. Humans had learned that listening kept them alive in a galaxy that was older and stronger than them. Beside him sat Hana, reviewing reports on a thin screen. Her face showed no emotion, but her fingers paused more often than usual. Something in the air felt wrong. The council speaker announced the next vote. It sounded small, almost boring. Trade adjustments, route security changes, emergency authority transfers. Words that sounded clean and careful. Many members nodded without reading the full details. Some smiled. Others looked away. Humans voted no. Their voices were calm. They asked questions. They requested time. They asked why medical routes were included in military adjustments. The speaker replied with smooth words and polite tones. Everything was legal. Everything was temporary. Everything was for stability. The vote passed anyway. Chi-Ho felt the shift at once. It was not anger. It was not fear. It was the feeling of being pushed one step closer to a wall. He bowed slightly, as humans always did, and left the chamber with Hana. No one stopped them. No one cared. The first supply ship failed to arrive 3 days later. At first, Earth leaders believed it was a delay. Space was large, and accidents happened. But then another ship did not arrive. Then another. Messages sent through official channels were returned with silence or excuses. Fuel shortages were blamed. Route conflicts. Administrative errors. Hospitals noticed first. Power was still flowing, but special medical reactors ran slower. Backup systems were activated. Doctors adjusted schedules. No panic spread. Humans had survived worse in their own past. They trusted systems. They trusted patience. Chi-Ho returned to Earth and stood in a quiet room beneath the planetary council hall. Screens showed trade routes blinking red. Hana spoke softly, explaining the pattern. Every route cut was legal on paper. Every action had a signature. No single act could be called an attack. But together, Hana said, it is pressure. Chi-Ho nodded. They are testing how long we can breathe. Human leaders debated their response. Some wanted to speak louder. Some wanted to threaten. Most chose silence. Not weakness. Silence as observation. Humans had learned that loud anger made enemies alert. Quiet work made results. On the surface of Earth, lights dimmed slightly in some cities. Not enough for panic. Enough to notice. People adjusted. Offices closed earlier. Homes shared power. Neighbors cooked together. No one screamed at the sky. No one begged the stars. Children still went to school. Old people still walked in parks. The planet slowed, but it did not stop. Far from public eyes. Deep under mountains and oceans, sealed doors opened for the first time in decades. Old systems woke up. Cold machines warmed. Human engineers like Day stood before screens older than him, reading notes left by people long gone. These were never meant to be used, someone whispered. Day replied. They were meant to be ready. Hana worked through nights, collecting data. Every delayed ship, every rerouted convoy, every council signature. She did not rush. She built a picture piece by piece. It was clear now. The council had crossed a line without announcing it. They believed humans would bend or break. Chi-Ho sent one message to the council. It was short and polite. It asked for explanation. It asked for correction. It reminded them of shared law. The reply arrived 2 days later. It thanked humanity for its patience. Nothing changed. On Earth, a small hospital in a coastal city lost power to one wing. Backup systems held, but barely. A nurse sat beside a child's bed, counting seconds between beeps, hoping the system would last through the night. That image reached Jiho's screen. He closed his eyes for a long moment. Humans did not announce their pain to the galaxy. They turned inward. Scientists shared data freely. Nations dropped old arguments. Borders softened. Old human instincts returned, not as violence, but as unity. Myra stood before a group of engineers and said, "We do not ask for mercy. We build answers." Within weeks, experimental reactors came online. They were inefficient and rough, but they worked. Power stabilized. Medical systems improved. The pressure eased, not because the Council helped, but because humanity adapted. In the Galactic Council chamber, members noticed something strange. Earth did not fall. Humans did not beg. Trade projections showed recovery. Some laughed, calling it temporary. Others felt uneasy. Ji-ho returned to the chamber one final time during that period. He stood calmly and spoke. "Humanity has followed every rule," he said. "We have waited. We have suffered quietly. We ask again. Why were our lifelines cut?" The speaker avoided his eyes. The answer was delayed. As Jiho walked away, he understood the truth fully. The Council did not fear humans yet. That was the mistake. Back on Earth, Hannah finished her report. She sent copies to secure vaults across the system. If one was destroyed, others would remain. Truth would not vanish. That night, Jiho stood on a balcony overlooking the planet. City lights glowed softer than before, but steadier. Humanity was hurt, but not broken. Not angry yet. He spoke quietly, not to anyone in particular. "They think we are quiet because we are weak." Behind him, Hannah replied, "No, we are quiet because we are choosing." Far above Earth, unseen by most, human ships shifted position. Not forward, not backward, just enough to be ready. The galaxy remained calm, but the line had been crossed. Earth was quiet, but it was far from helpless. Cities adjusted to limited power. Factories reduced output. Hospitals rotated schedules, and people learned to share resources. Streets were calmer, but this calm was not fear. It was preparation. Humanity knew that survival required patience, intelligence, and unity. They walked through a hospital ward, checking the new reactors that had been installed. They were smaller, older designs, but they worked. Nurses moved quickly, but calmly, adjusting to the changes. Patients noticed the new systems were not as smooth, but they also noticed that life continued without interruption. In classrooms, teachers spoke softly about adjustments in daily routines. Children adapted quickly, always resilient. It was quiet, but humanity was learning how to thrive despite the limits. Hannah studied the reports from the first weeks of Council sanctions. Every trade interruption, every shipment lost, every energy reroute was logged. She compared it to records from before. Patterns emerged. The Council had planned to weaken humans gradually, expecting them to fail. But they did not account for human determination. Jiho called a meeting with key leaders in a small council room beneath the city. The table was crowded, but no one argued. Everyone had one goal: keep the planet alive and watch the Council closely. "We must not react too soon," Jiho said. "They want to see us panic. They want to see chaos. We give them neither." Myra nodded. "We focus on self-reliance. We rebuild. We learn." While officials met, engineers like Siok and Yuna worked on old ships, forgotten military vehicles, and backup satellites. They repaired what was still useful and built what they could from scratch. No one called it a fleet yet. It was preparation. It was readiness. It was hidden, silent, like a shadow beneath daily life. In space, human observation posts monitored trade routes. Ships that once carried medicine and food now hovered, inactive or rerouted. Council fleets patrolled areas near Earth, confident that humanity would not resist. They were wrong. Humans observed every movement, learning patterns and weaknesses. Each pause, each signal, each patrol path was logged and studied. Ji-Ho and Hana met daily, reviewing intelligence and planning quietly. They were calm, composed, and patient. Humanity had learned that control of anger was a strength. Reacting too soon could lead to mistakes. They did not rush. They did not plead. They did not give the Council the satisfaction of panic. Meanwhile, life on Earth continued. People adapted. Homes shared power grids. Cities turned off lights at night, creating a dim glow that reminded everyone of limits. Farmers adjusted irrigation. Factories shared fuel. Schools rotated schedules. Life slowed, but it did not stop. Humanity proved that even with pressure, their civilization could endure. As weeks passed, the Council misread the silence as weakness. They saw no protests, no appeals, no visible suffering. Some members whispered that Earth would bend, that humans would beg for mercy. Ji-Ho and Hana knew otherwise. Humanity was growing stronger under pressure. The Council had underestimated them. On a remote base, engineers activated dormant energy plants. They hummed quietly at first, then stronger. They supervised as reactors began powering hospitals, water systems, and factories. It was not a perfect system, but it worked. Humanity learned to survive without outside help. In a university lab, Mira and her team studied advanced communication networks. Old satellites were brought back online. Signals that once transmitted music or news were now repurposed for observation and learning. Humanity used every resource at hand. Every failure taught them lessons. Every shortage prompted innovation. Ji-Ho addressed the people of Earth through secure channels. He spoke quietly, calmly, but with authority. We are under pressure, yes, but we are not defeated. We adapt. We endure. We survive together. The Council noticed small signs of recovery. Supplies still failed to arrive, but Earth rebuilt. Trade routes were partially restored, thanks to human ingenuity. Medical systems stabilized. Citizens were learning to endure, to improvise, to help one another. Some Council members felt uneasy. They had expected collapse. Instead, they saw resilience. Seok walked through an old shipyard, examining vessels that had been dormant for decades. Yuna checked engines and weapons systems. They think we are quiet because we are afraid, Seok said. Yuna shook her head. Quiet is our choice. Fear is theirs. As Earth adjusted to the Council's pressure, the planet showed strength in ways the galaxy had not seen before. Communities shared resources. Citizens helped one another. Scientists innovated. Engineers rebuilt old systems. Children continued learning. Life continued, stronger and wiser than before. Hana compiled another report for Ji-Ho. It showed that humanity was not only surviving, it was preparing. The Council did not realize that their sanctions had taught humans to work together, to innovate, and to endure in silence. Earth's recovery was slow, careful, and controlled, but unstoppable. Night fell on the planet, and the lights glowed dimly but steadily. People moved through the streets with calm purpose. Hospitals functioned. Water flowed. Food was shared. Humanity endured, and the galaxy watched in disbelief. Ji-Ho stood on a balcony, looking over the city. He felt no anger. He felt no panic. He felt readiness. The Council had crossed the line without knowing it. They had tested humanity's patience, and humans had chosen quiet resilience. That choice would define their strength. Hana joined him, holding a data pad filled with observations and calculations. They think we are silent because we are weak, she said. Ji-ho nodded. They do not know that silence is our plan, that patience is our strength, and that when the time comes, we will act not as panic, but as purpose. Below them, the city continued to glow softly. Humanity had endured. Humanity had adapted. Humanity had survived. And above, hidden from the Council's eyes, ships moved quietly, preparing for the future. The galaxy remained calm, but Earth was not afraid. It was ready. The silence of humanity ended suddenly and with purpose. It was not chaos. It was not wild anger. It was controlled, precise, and deliberate. The Council had waited for weakness. They would find none. It started with the convoy. Council-backed ships moved near a human refugee transport, expecting no resistance. The transport carried civilians, families, children. It was defenseless, or so they thought. Yet human sensors had watched the fleet for weeks. Signals were analyzed, patrol patterns understood. The Council had crossed the line, and humanity would respond. SEOK, commanding the nearest human fleet, gave orders that were calm but firm. Every ship moved in perfect coordination, shields and weapons ready, but no one fired immediately. The first action was to disable, not destroy. Sensors jammed Council communications. Engines were temporarily overpowered, halting ships without damage. Humans broadcast the truth across every channel in the galaxy, showing evidence of Council cruelty and civilian danger. The Council fleets faltered. They expected surprise attacks, chaos, screams. They found precision, discipline, and mercy. Humans rescued civilians while disabling enemy ships. Ships that had hovered in space thinking Earth would panic now watched their lines collapse without any human casualty. It was an unfamiliar power, controlled fury. On Earth, Ji-ho and Hana monitored the operation. Screens displayed real-time data. Each disabled ship, each rescued convoy, each broadcast sent was a calculated move. They did not celebrate. They did not show triumph. They focused on results, on minimizing loss, on ensuring the message reached the galaxy. Myra coordinated communications. Her voice was calm, but firm over secure channels. They will see truth. They will understand the choice humanity makes. We do not destroy what we can correct. We do not harm what we can save. News spread across distant systems faster than the Council could suppress it. Other species witnessed human actions. Confusion spread among them. Humans were supposed to be weak. Humans were supposed to beg, to fail. Instead, they acted with strategy and compassion at the same time. The galaxy watched as humanity's controlled fury became clear. Siok addressed his fleet. Every move we make shows strength. Every life we save shows who we are. Remember, we fight not for vengeance, but for justice. Council ships began retreating, but their retreat was disorganized. They had not expected humans to adapt so quickly, to act with both force and care. Ji-ho's heart remained steady. He knew that even this display was not the end. Humans had more to reveal, more to demonstrate, but it would be done carefully. Yuna managed logistics, ensuring that supplies reached rescued refugees. Engineers worked to repair minor damage caused during the disruption. Humanity acted efficiently, calmly, without panicking. Each citizen, each soldier, each engineer understood that discipline was strength. This was not anger for the sake of anger. This was a declaration of controlled power. The Council convened emergency meetings. Leaders whispered in panic. How could humans act with such precision? How could a species so young, so underestimated, disable fleets without major loss. Fear began to spread. Fear of humans had always existed in quiet ways, but now it became clear and visible. Jiho addressed the galaxy through public channels. His voice was calm, authoritative, yet devoid of threat. Humanity does not seek domination. Humanity does not seek war. Humanity seeks fairness, honesty, and survival. We respond to injustice not with vengeance, but with purpose. Hana presented detailed evidence to council members and other species. She showed the intercepted orders, the sanctions, the affected supply routes. Every step the council had taken to pressure Earth was documented. The truth became undeniable. The galaxy began to question. Had the council acted for stability, or had it acted out of arrogance? On the battlefield, human pilots executed maneuvers that seemed impossible to other species. Ships moved in perfect synchronization, striking only when needed, disabling systems, and retreating before retaliation could occur. Civilians were shielded. Communications were open. Humanity was not silent anymore. They were speaking through Action.SEOK, landed in a small orbit near the Council's observation posts. Engineers on board ensured that human systems remained undetected until the last moment. Ships that had threatened refugees now floated, immobilized but intact. Humans had proven control over the situation, proving that fury could be precise and ethical. Back on Earth, Mira reviewed communications from other species. Many were stunned. Some openly praised humans, questioning their own leaders. Some wondered why they had underestimated a young species. The galaxy began to shift subtly. As species observed the strength in humanity's discipline, Jiho walked through a command hall filled with young officers. Each had worked tirelessly to reach this moment. He did not give speeches. He did not offer praise. He simply reminded them, strength is in choice, in patience, in unity. What we have done is only the beginning. What we choose next will define humanity for all time. Above the planet, satellites monitored every movement of council fleets. Humans adjusted positions, preparing for any eventuality, but without aggression unless required. The galaxy watched as humans did not rage blindly. They responded with reason, with discipline, with justice. The first acts of human fury were complete. No unnecessary destruction had occurred. Lives were saved. Systems were disabled. Messages were broadcast. Humanity had revealed that their anger was not a liability. It was a controlled and formidable force. Jiho and Hana looked at each other in the quiet of the command center. Words were not needed. Both understood that the galaxy's perception of humans had changed. Respect and fear were intertwined now, not because humans sought power, but because humans acted with unwavering purpose. Below, life on Earth continued. Citizens were unaware of every precise movement in space above them. Children played. Schools taught. Factories worked. Humanity's fury was not reckless, but it had awakened the galaxy to the reality that humans could no longer be underestimated. Sio communicated with Jiho once more. They will remember today. Not for chaos, not for anger, but for control. For choice. For humanity. Jiho nodded. Yes, and they will remember that we do not fight without reason. But when the line is crossed, we act with precision that cannot be ignored. The council reeled under the unexpected demonstration. They began to question their actions, the strategies that had led to this moment. Humanity had not attacked blindly. Humanity had not sought revenge. Humanity had demonstrated that even when crossed, they could respond with measured, devastating effectiveness. In the quiet of space, human ships returned to observation positions. Systems remained alert. Pilots trained, engineers monitored, and civilians continued daily life. Humanity's first act of controlled fury was complete. It was a warning, a lesson, and a promise all at once. The galaxy would not forget, and humanity would not be underestimated again. The Galactic Council was in chaos. Meetings that were once calm and orderly now filled with shouting, fear, and disbelief. Humanity had acted, and they had acted with precision. Council members whispered in corridors and debated openly, trying to understand how a young species could challenge them so effectively without firing a single destructive shot. Ji-Ho and Hana watched the reports from Earth. Screens displayed Council fleets frozen, Council leaders panicking, and messages from other species questioning their allegiance. The balance of power had shifted not through violence, but through controlled strength and disciplined action. On Earth, human fleets continued to monitor space, ready to respond, but not striking unnecessarily. Seok and Yuna coordinated movements that prevented escalation while demonstrating capability. Engineers repaired ships and stations quickly, ensuring that readiness remained high. Humanity showed that their power was not for destruction, but for deterrence and control. In the council chamber, debates grew heated. Some members accused others of misjudging humanity. Some questioned the legality of their own sanctions. Fear spread because the council realized humans could destroy everything if they chose, yet they had chosen restraint. This restraint made humans more powerful than any act of aggression could have. Ji-Ho addressed the galaxy over secure communication channels. His voice was calm, measured, and unwavering. We do not seek war. We do not seek domination. We seek fairness. We act only when lines are crossed. Humanity has shown patience, endurance, and restraint. We will continue to act in defense of justice and life. Hana presented evidence to member species across the galaxy. Every illegal sanction, every disrupted route, every falsified report was documented. Other species began to question their own council representatives. Some openly defected, pledging support to humanity or calling for reform. The council's unity was crumbling. Seok piloted a ship close to the council capital's orbit. Communications were open but non-aggressive. Humans demonstrated the ability to disable systems without destruction, to project power without violence. It was a lesson in discipline, strategy, and morality combined. Myra and her team monitored the council's internal communications. Panic and indecision were apparent. Leaders who had once spoken with authority now questioned each other, fearing that their underestimation of humanity had put them in a vulnerable position. Humanity had not attacked in anger, yet the council felt the weight of their power. On Earth, citizens lived daily life unaware of the subtle but dramatic changes in the galaxy. Streets were calm, schools continued, and workplaces operated steadily. Humanity's strength was not in visible aggression, but in quiet organization and unity. Everyone, from engineers to medical staff, understood that their coordinated efforts on the ground supported the larger message in space. Ji-Ho visited the command center, speaking to the human officers overseeing operations. We surround the council not to destroy, he said, but to remind them that power comes with responsibility. Our choice is our strength. Their fear is a lesson. Yuna and Seok coordinated satellite positioning and fleet maneuvers that maximized visibility without firing a shot. They displayed human technological skill, tactical intelligence, and strategic patience. The galaxy observed, and whispers of admiration mixed with fear traveled from system to system. The council realized the futility of their position. Their sanctions had failed to break humanity. Their fleets were immobilized, their authority questioned, and their credibility shattered. Humans had acted not as conquerors, but as disciplined defenders of life and fairness. This understanding spread quickly, reshaping alliances and loyalties. Ji-Ho, standing before a holographic map of the galaxy, reflected on the human approach. Each move had been deliberate, every choice measured. Humanity had proved that control, patience, and moral clarity could achieve more than rage and fear. Their fury was not destruction. It was consequence, precision, and unavoidable impact. Hana added. The galaxy has learned a new truth. Crossing humanity has consequences. Not for anger, but for principle. They will be remembered for their choice, not their power. Across the galaxy, council members debated how to respond. Some sought peace, some tried diplomacy, but all recognized that humanity had changed the rules. They had demonstrated restraint, intelligence, and unity that other species had not expected. Fear was not about loss of life, but about the realization that humanity had matured into a force the galaxy could not ignore. Siok communicated with Jiho once more. They understand now. They fear our restraint as much as our strength. Jiho nodded. Yes, and this is only the beginning. Our next steps must continue to be guided by choice, not rage. Humanity's fleets returned to observation positions, systems ready, ships maintained. Life on Earth remained calm, citizens unaware of the political tremors their species had caused. Humanity's power was quiet, effective, and moral. The galaxy watched, learned, and slowly, reluctantly, began to respect the young species. Jiho and Hana stood together in the command center, reviewing reports. We did not destroy, Jiho said. We reminded. We demonstrated. We endured. Hana smiled faintly. Yes, and the council fell not because of anger, but because of choice. Humanity chose wisely, and the galaxy had no answer. Above Earth, human ships continued to patrol silently, their presence a reminder that strength without chaos was the greatest power of all. The council's collapse was not violent, but inevitable. Humanity had forged a new reality, one where respect came from wisdom, patience, and moral clarity. The galaxy had changed, and humanity would no longer be underestimated. The dust of conflict had settled, but there had been no massive battles. The Galactic Council had been broken, not by fire, but by the quiet, controlled strength of humanity. Member species began forming new alliances, some guided by respect, some by fear, and some by hope. Humanity now held a voice that could not be ignored, not because of power alone, but because of discipline, morality, and restraint. Jiho and Hana watched as reports streamed in from across the galaxy. Former council members reached out, asking for guidance, requesting counsel, and acknowledging misjudgment. Humans had proven that their fury was controlled, and their moral choice commanded respect. Siok and Yuna coordinated fleets not as weapons of destruction, but as protective forces, ready to assist where needed, to maintain stability, and to prevent cruelty. On Earth, life continued with a quiet normalcy. Streets glowed softly under controlled power grids. Schools operated efficiently. Factories and hospitals adapted to new systems. Citizens were unaware of the subtle but important changes that humanity's choices had wrought across the stars. They felt safety and unity, unaware that their planet had become the center of a moral revolution in the galaxy. Mira supervised new communications hubs, ensuring that all species could connect, share, and coordinate. Humanity offered aid and technology to neighbors who had once doubted them. No one was forced to accept, but those who sought cooperation found it freely offered. Every step humans took reinforced that power alone was not the measure of influence, but wisdom, choice, and fairness. Jiho addressed the galaxy through open channels. His voice was calm, steady, and compelling. We do not seek control. We do not seek vengeance. We act only to preserve fairness, to protect life, and to offer choice. Humanity has shown that strength is in restraint, and that wisdom surpasses mere power. We hope for cooperation, fairness, and respect for all species. Hana sent secure messages to fleets and allies, documenting every interaction, every system restored, and every act of aid. Transparency became humanity's tool. Other species could see the logic, morality, and strength behind every human action. Respect for humanity grew not because humans conquered, but because they chose not to. Even when provoked, CO patrolled newly stabilized regions, helping to ensure that former Council territories were integrated fairly into the new galactic order. UNA coordinated logistics and support, ensuring that assistance reached systems struggling after the collapse. Humanity's actions created stability, and with stability came trust. Former adversaries began to see humans as guides rather than threats. Jiho and Hannah met quietly in the command center. "Our fury was never the true strength," Jiho said. "It was our choice." Hannah nodded. "Yes, every action, every restraint, every effort to preserve life. That is what changed the galaxy." Across human fleets, soldiers and engineers continued their work, not out of anger or ambition, but to maintain order and support life. Their discipline, patience, and unity became a symbol. In distant systems, alien children learned of humanity's deeds. Teachers explained that power without restraint was dangerous, and restraint without wisdom was empty. Humanity's example offered a new standard. The galaxy began to rebuild. Trade routes reopened, humanitarian aid flowed freely, and knowledge and technology shared responsibly. Former council members adapted, learning from humanity's model. Disputes were handled diplomatically, aided by human guidance. Fear of human aggression had turned into admiration of human choice. Jiho reflected on the journey. From silence under pressure, to controlled response, to reshaping the galaxy without destruction, humans had walked a path that few could comprehend. Their fury had been a tool, their restraint the lesson. The galaxy had learned that underestimation of humans was a grave mistake. On Earth, children played in parks, unaware that their species had become a beacon of wisdom across the stars. Adults worked, studied, and lived, carrying the quiet pride of a civilization that had endured trials and emerged respected. Not feared, not conquered, but honored. Hana looked out over the city lights, softly illuminated by sustainable energy. "We have done what others thought impossible," she said. "We have proved that humans are not weak. That choice is stronger than anger. That morality can guide strength." Jiho joined her. And now the galaxy knows. Humanity's path is clear. We will protect, guide, and endure. And we will never again be underestimated. Above, human fleets returned to observation and support positions. They remained ready, not for war, but for defense. Their presence ensured fairness and stability. The galaxy had changed, forever aware that humanity's power was not in rage or conquest, but in discipline, choice, and moral clarity. The story of humanity's response spread through stars and systems, remembered not as a tale of revenge, but as a lesson of restraint, courage, and wisdom. The Galactic Council no longer ruled. A new alliance formed, guided by transparency, consent, and respect. Humanity did not seek to rule. They sought to ensure that no species would be crossed without consequences, and that fairness would endure. Earth continued to shine. Quiet but strong, a symbol of what a species could achieve when patience, intelligence, and moral choice were combined. The galaxy learned that true power was not in destruction, but in the strength to choose restraint when fury called. And in doing so, humanity became the quiet guardians of a new order.